Asia. And we are now running the event, which is called Circular Economy in Asia, Africa, and Europe, sharing knowledge that makes value chains circular. And this is an event in the context of World Resource Forum. Such an announcement is very important, provided that World Economic Forum has had multiple exciting events, and some of you who attended a few of them might have been at times maybe confused about which event you're currently facing. So that's our event, and please, again, I would ask to mute your microphones while the speakers and panelists are exchanging their views. This meeting is going to be recorded, and a record as well as presentations and social media news and beats are going to be available on the Switch Asia website. So please do go there for the record of this meeting, as well for some other information also from the partners of this meeting. So let us start. My name is Zinaida Fadeeva. I'm the team leader of the Switch Asia Policy Support Component, and it's my particular pleasure to greet you, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, dear friends. Today we are here to explore aspirations of transition towards a circular economy, and in particular to discuss the role of circular economy knowledge platforms and networks. And we aim to delve into their transformative value in our journey towards circular economy and circular value chains. Within European Union Switch Asia, the main convener of this event, we do understand among the colleagues that circular economy means different things to different people. It varies across sectors, businesses, policy context, and this diversity is not inherently negative. In fact, it can foster innovations within specific contexts. However, when we lack critical reflections on the concept of circular economy and the practices that underpin it, we risk idealizing simple recycling or glorifying existing suboptimal practices as being suitable for circular economy. And this in turn can lead to circular economy becoming just another color on the palette of greenwashing. So we believe that true circular economy goes beyond resource circularity. It aims at net zero material and energy leakages from our consumption and production system, making sustainability really a central aspiration. The experts who will speak to us today, and they are with us and shortly will be presented, and this expert work with circular economy platforms and associated networks are bringing together partners from civil society, from businesses, from the government, and those partners, they are the ones which ground circular economy in reality, and away from circular economy romantics, so to speak, and circular economy skeptics. With help of knowledge platform, they are to demonstrate that circular economy is not just an idealistic concept, but a template for innovation with focus on assessing its impacts. I invite you today to actively participate in our conversations, share your insights, embrace the power of circular economy, and the invaluable contribution of knowledge platforms and networks. Let's work together towards a future where circularity, sustainability, and innovation thrive. Thank you for your attention and look forward to the insightful discussion. Now, that is my turn to hand over the facilitation of this exciting and rich event to Dr. Anthony, who is the director of the Circular Economy Hub and at the CSDSD Center, which he himself and his colleagues are going to talk a little bit about. Dr. Anthony, you're the chair now.
Dr. Anthony, you are muted.
Okay, here we go. Good afternoon, good morning. We have some participants that are unmuted? Okay. I hope everybody can hear me. My name is Anthony. I'm the Deputy Director of the ASEAN Center for Sustainable Development Studies and Dialogue. We're located in Bangkok. And I have the pleasure today to moderate this session. Today, we have several speakers. I will introduce them very briefly. We have Mr. Thomas Thomas, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the ASEAN CSR Network. We have Ms. Maria Nicolaopoulou, who's the Executive European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform. And we have Ms. Semilore of the African Circular Economy. Circular Economy.
Sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt, but we...
Okay, everybody muted, and we have David, who is the newest circular economy platform, the ASEAN Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform. We have a heavy and very fruitful agenda for today. I would just like to ask our speakers today from the various circular economy platforms to briefly give an introduction of your work, when you were established, and what you're currently doing at the moment. Shall we start with, I guess, in any order? I think perhaps maybe with Mr. David. Shall we start with David, which is the newest? Then perhaps we can follow with the oldest, I guess, Maria, and then with Semilore. The second question is which will come after your introduction. We have a few minutes for that. It's directed towards Mr. Thomas Thomas. So let me ask David to introduce the ASEAN Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform first, and then followed by others. David, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anthony, for your kind introduction. So my name is David Turiswit Ariawat from the ASEAN Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform. So allow me to briefly introduce the platform of the ASEAN region. The ASEAN Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform was established as a regional facility to help ASEAN member states achieve sustainable consumption and production by accelerating a transition to a circular economy as part of the ongoing ASEAN-EU Partnership on the Circular Economy endorsed by the senior ASEAN official on the environment. The establishment of our ASEAN platform was inspired by the success of EU Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform, and by learning from the EU platform and other regional initiatives. Our mission is to support the transition to a circular economy through providing access to good circular economy practices and strategy through a knowledge and information portal, facilitating circular economy stakeholder engagement, as well as organizing annual conference with diverse participation, and recognizing that the region circular economy efforts are still very early. We help to share policy commitments and good practices, success story needed to advance ASEAN's circular economy agenda. In addition, we also support the effective coordination and collaboration between the ASEAN Economic Community and the ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community pillar, dialogue partners and private sector to scale up and accelerate the region's transition to a circular economy. And the ASEAN Center for Sustainable Development Study and Dialogue, or ACSD in short, located at Mahidol University, Thailand, is the host institution for this platform. And with support from the Enhanced Regional EU ASEAN Dialogue Instrument, or the eReady, the platform secretariat was inaugurated last September. And our platform will contribute to our mission mainly by operating a knowledge and information portal to share different types of circular economy information, to raise awareness on the relevance and the benefit of circular economy approach in this region to promote holistic understanding of circular economy as a strategic approach to resilient and sustainable development, as well as to identify and promote government policy at both regional and national level business practice that can enable circular economy transition. In addition to the operation of the knowledge platform, we will also contribute to our mission by organizing an annual regional circular economy forum and initiate joint project with strategic partners to strengthen the exchange of experience between ASEAN and the EU on circular economy strategies, policies, and business model. In addition to the support from the already mentioned above, we are also receiving support from Switch Asia, our beloved host for today's event. Thank you. That is our introduction.
Thank you, David. Could I turn now to
Can you hear me?
We can hear you very well, Thomas. Please go ahead. Dr. Anthony, your microphone seems like has a bit of a challenge. Perhaps while Thomas is speaking, you might want to check it and change it, if possible, please. Thank you very much. Thomas?
Thank you very much. My apologies because I am using my mobile phone because my laptop apparently didn't connect, and I was trying to get my name there correct. Thank you very much. I am just, my name is Thomas. I'm sorry, there was some part I didn't hear correctly, so I'm just need a little clarification. Am I supposed to answer the question one, or just give a short introduction of myself? I'm sorry, I missed you on a little bit, Dr. Anthony.
Thomas, you will have actually a more important role. Your role will be to discuss after the introductions of the regional platforms. Your role will be to discuss how to get business stakeholders, more involved to strengthen the platform. So that's actually quite an important role. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will wait. Thank you very much.
Okay. So could I ask Maria to say a few words?
Yes, good morning, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation. Before I start presenting you the platform, I would really like to thank David for his introduction when he mentioned that they got inspired by the SF. It was really touching for me. This is precisely the clear example on how important it is to get everyone together and to be able to inspire each other, to move forward. So the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform, it is a joint initiative that was launched in 2017 from two bodies of the European Union, the European Economic and Social Committee and the European Commission. And the objective of establishing the platform was to accelerate Europe's transition to a circular production and consumption model. So the SSP is meant to be a one-stop shop for the circular economy community. It's a place for dialogue, and it's a bridge between the existing circular economy initiatives. So in terms of governance, there are two layers. The first one is the institutional one. So the teams of the European Economic and Social Committee and of the Commission, we are in charge of putting in place the economic and the human resources for the platform to be operative. And also to set up the policy agenda. The European Commission, for example, is presenting the legislative packages related to the Circular Economy Action Plan. And then there is a second layer, which is the bottom-up approach of the coordination group. So representatives of 24 different organizations from different sectors of the civil society in the whole Europe. They are the ambassadors of the platform. They are fostering the debates among the relevant circular economy stakeholders in Europe and worldwide. They co-create and they organize different events and different debates. So the platform gives a prominent role to the stakeholders, as they are actually the heart of the content sharing on the website. And this feature was precisely what the Commission and the ESC we had in mind when we agreed to set up the ESS, this double steering tool with governing bodies composed by the stakeholders and connecting them with the policymakers and the whole circular economy community. So the idea is to actually empower the stakeholders, give them a space that belongs to them, and they can share their successes, also their setbacks in the implementation of their strategies, to share business models, and eventually help each other going forward to the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Semiloria?
Of course, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to colleagues from across the world. It's a pleasure to be here, of course. I hope I'm audible. Yeah, okay, I will go on then. So my name is Oluwaseunmilola Adeoti, and I am from the African Circular Economy Network Foundation, but also today representing the African Circular Economy Network, as both organizations are very closely intertwined. So just a bit of introduction to the foundation. And the work that we do, as other colleagues have done. The ACEN Foundation was set up in 2021, so still quite new, with the objective of supporting the just transition to a circular economy within the African context. And the history at the foundation is coming from a broad network of experts called the African Circular Economy Network, that provides the foundation upon which provides the foundation upon which we take the next steps. The general idea is sort of working from a twofold perspective, so supporting activities from the top down in terms of supporting policy developments and developing strategies, and also supporting activities on the ground by collaborating with experts, enthusiasts, practitioners on the ground, supporting their initiatives through knowledge sharing, events, and so on and so forth. So the strength of the foundation is in collaborating with the experts on the ground, with the people that know the unique circumstances within their regions and understand the topic very well, and sharing this information with colleagues or the people that make the decision at the top. So that cross collaboration from the bottom and the top. So that's just a brief introduction, and then we could go more in.
Thank you very much. Before I move on to Thomas, I just want to summarize one of the key that the speakers have discussed today. The inspiration which the ASEAN Center for the Circular Economy Stakeholder Platforms clearly was inspired from the European Circular Economy Platform. I also noticed that both Maria and Semiloria have discussed things which I think ASEAN can learn from, and that is empowering stakeholders and on-the-ground activities. And perhaps we can learn more on that in the next session. I'd like to turn now to Mr. Thomas, and our question to begin the discussion for Mr. Thomas, who is the ASEAN CSR network, and one of the key founders and originators, of the ASEAN CSR network, is how can such platforms become a resource for business stakeholders? And at the same time, how can business stakeholders strengthen the platforms like this? So, Thomas, you can hear me? You can speak to that? Can you please unmute your microphone?
Good day. Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. My apologies. For some reason, my laptop does not obey me today. It's strange because I come from a country called Singapore, which one of the hallmarks is that we're very obedient. We do whatever the government tells us to do. On a serious note, coming back on this platform in ASEAN, let me go and put this question in context on what is the region and how does the ASEAN CSR fit in the circumstances of this 10-country region, and then how does this platform help to address some of the issues of this region. ASEAN stands for Association of Southeast Asian Nations. We are different from different other countries in the sense that we are an association, not a community. But we are an economic powerhouse with a combined $3.66 trillion economy and with a population of 660 million. If we actually 8% of the global population, 7% of global GDP, and if we have been one country instead of 10 countries, we will be the 5th largest economy in the world, and we are growing so fast that in 2050 we are expected to be the 4th largest. And this whole drive has been because we have been Factory Asia. We have been producing as a workshop, manufacturing, using abundant, cheap labor, a lot of consumer needs of it. But also, I like to say Southeast Asia is also huge, a region of immense cultural, social, environmental diversity. We have huge forests, water resources, and a whole lot of things. But because we are factory and growth at all costs was a mindset we had in this region, we also face many problems and challenges relating to sustainability, from climate change, deforestation, social inequalities, human rights violations, and many other complex and interconnected issues that actually require some urgent and attention as well as action. Just to give you an illustration of diversity of ASEAN, when ASEAN was formed in 1967, it was signed in Bangkok with 5 foreign ministers of Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, and Singapore. You can see there were 2 Muslims, 1 Buddhist, 1 Christian, and 1 Hindu. 4 different religious guys were signing. So that's the really diversity of the population, languages, beliefs, religious. In terms of political structure too, we have an absolute monarch, we have one-party states, we have military governments, we have quasi-democracies, and democracies of all ranges and sizes. In terms of economics, we have high-income countries, middle-income countries, least developed countries. Huge countries in geography like Indonesia with 3 time zones, or even from Singapore, which is 720 square kilometers at low tide. We have huge differences. So I'm just saying, but we have managed over the last 50 years or so more to work together, and there have been a lot of peace and prosperity. But this prosperity, I like to recall, has been a trade-off between at some of the expenses and sustainability. So ASEAN is trying to address some of these problems in their work plans, but we still have gaps due to the fact that some of these agreements have problem to be implemented. So in this context, businesses has a role to play because businesses can address some of these challenges of driving economic growth, but economic growth with responsibility. So the current business context is mixed. There are some companies, some businesses who are making very significant progress in sustainable practices, while others are just struggling in their journey. So why is this happening? It could be lack of awareness and education about on sustainability, on circular economy, on responsible business, and also competing priorities. Because the most important thing for all businesses is to be profitable, but how to be profitable with things. And also there's also a limited access to resources, technology, regulatory things. So in this context, the ASEAN has initiated my organization of some years ago to promote responsible business conduct, to achieve sustainable, equitable, and inclusive social, environmental, and economic development. So we were formed in the 2009 business work plan of ASEAN to achieve sustainable social economic development. So we are an ASEAN entity, as my organization, ASEAN CSR Network. We try to bring together business membership, businesses to catalyze, facilitate social responsibility. We work in a number of spheres, including environmentals, human rights, labor standards, etc., with varying degree of success. And we take into account business contributions. We work with the ASEAN Business Advisory Council. We are the responsible and inclusive business champion. And so I just like to say, within the context, we try to do it. We hope by working with businesses, working with ASEAN Secretariat, working with other organizations, we could achieve our vision of a
I think Thomas is muted. Has somebody muted Thomas?
Oh, I think somebody did. Okay, thanks. So we are just quite new. We started off quite new as this platform. We Switch Asia, ASEAN. We're trying to do a consultative, exploratory experience finding, consensus building process on how we could promote the circular economy transition. Basically, at the end, we have a set of principles, a set of priorities, and provisionally we can call it a pact that could leading business could operate on, and we could bring the agenda up. So at the present moment, we focus on 5 countries to work: Cambodia. It's Cambodia, Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, and the Philippines. So we are working on this. So what we try to do with this whole lot is we're trying to develop some high-level principles and priority areas, as well as what should be the headline performance indicators for this. So, and part of these high-level principles is to bring clarity. Because one of the big problems in circular economy, even in social responsibility, is there is no convergence. There's so many, there is so many definitions, and there is a pick and choose of what you prefer in terms of responsibility. And to also, we hope that this will avoid greenwashing and also reinforce the fact that circular economy is part of the overall business responsibility for their impact on society. And it's just part of it. So you have to respect not just the environment, not just your products, but also the people with good governance, etc. So what we think, and I believe this platform can address some of the regional challenges, is like one, is to get this common understanding on what is sustainability, what are the priorities, what is really circular economy, and that we can together do more in terms of substance. And when you go on to real substance, you're actually going beyond greenwashing. It is real work. And number two, there is a lot of local experience that is there. So we're trying to uncover some of this local knowledge, local experience. And when you look and we share this experience, we actually reinforce. I think in Asia, we have a lot of great wisdom. Many of the big civilizations in the world came from this part of the world. And we have that in that. And the third one is actually, I see that we could measure impact because you will push innovations. And once innovation is seen as things, you read to the next point is that circular economy would see some real benefits. You'll see its impact that businesses can be profitable, can be responsible at the same time. They don't have to have a trade-off, which currently a lot of business things. it's a trade-off between profitability and responsibility. You can't have both. And end result, if businesses are responsible, you build up trust in society. And with trust, you build up better relations. And with better relations, we can do. So fundamentally for social responsibility, it would result in more transparency, accountability, ethical conduct, respect for rule of law, respect for people, respect for the rights of people. And finally, I think circularity will reinforce itself. The more success will breed success, and it will build on this. So I would just say these are just my brief introductory words. I'm very grateful that we have this opportunity to share from more experienced platforms and more experienced people. So, and these learning experiences will help us to reinforce each other. So on that note, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas. Before I move on, I just want to ask Thomas, in your, extensive experience in working with businesses in ASEAN, for the benefit of platforms, circular economy platforms, especially the newer ones, what do you think are the key things that can bring business on board, can be influential in engaging them to profitably, and also with regards to the profit and responsibility. So if you could just briefly, what advice would you give to circular economy platforms?
Okay. I don't know whether I could give advice, but I would like to say that one of the hallmarks of the major big companies in Southeast Asia is that they're either family-owned or government-linked. And in the family-owned, very big ones, they're also well connected to governments. So sometimes pressure on them is limited. They are quite influential. And the other part of Southeast Asia is that we don't have a very strong civil society as such, or even trade unions of limited influence. So when you talk about, so a part of the business normal change is because of legislation, because of market forces, or because of their own values. Fortunately, there are some who believe in values. I've done some studies on social sustainability reporting. And for example, I think about off the top of my head, I think 35% of Thai companies says that they operate on Buddhist values and philosophies, and also the King's sufficiency economy principles. So that will have to do it. So the other point I want to make is that the people change or the influence is because there's a business case in terms of to do the right thing is profitable. But I think what we need to show is that there's also a moral case. You have to do the right thing because the planet is not going to wait for us with all this climate change and solutions, problems that's coming up. So I think with these platforms, what the platforms can do is to have these peers pressure that works on to help people to influence. We all have a tendency to keeping up with peers, keeping up with our peers. So if you can enough people through these platforms to propagate this idea, then we could make certain things norms, even without legislation. So hopefully governments are influential, they can legislate, but they should also influence. But I think the most important effectiveness is businesses realizing you have to do it for yourself as part of your moral responsibility.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for those what I consider wise words, because they are what I call basic or foundational values, whether they're Buddhist values or Muslim values or actually in fact as well as family-owned large companies or government-led companies, because these have been in operation for generations. And what I found in family-owned companies is that they instill values into their younger generation, their children, their grandchildren, who they become. who they become CEOs. So thank you for those what I still call wise words. Could I move on now to discuss basically the second part of our webinar today is basically directed towards to Semilore, if that's okay, and to others and to the other stakeholder platforms as well. And what the question is, what would you really like to do but have not done so far to feed into policy dialogues? You know, what have been your key challenges in feeding to these policy dialogues, whether at the national level or at the regional level? So please, Semilore.
Thank you. I think that's such an important and interesting question in itself, especially within the African context. So if you look at the policy landscape in general in itself, we see comparatively to Europe, for example, the policy landscape still needs quite a bit of development. So within the continent at large, although quite a number of countries have different product policies like plastic bans, different environmental policies, legislature, and so on. There is still a large gap or significant gap in terms of real circular economy legislature or policy directives. The first country within the African continent to launch such a policy was Rwanda, where in 2022, with the support of ASIN Foundation, developed the first circular economy action plan. And in this process, one thing that we were able to do was to speak to as many stakeholders within the key priority sectors to support their actions. So in a lot of cases, we see quite a bit of mismatch in the policy regulatory landscape and the initiatives and activities that is ongoing, on the ground. There is cases where initiatives are one policy or one legislature or one regulation away from being closed off. So in a situation where, for example, you have a business that is producing from non-virgin materials, from recycled materials and so on. However, there's a legislature that comes up all of a sudden that says you shouldn't produce from recycled materials. This is just an example. You see that business initiative, which is providing a particular solution, is now contravening the law. So what we try to do, or what we do as an organization, is to understand very clearly what is needed for the success or for the transition, this circular transition on the ground, and then develop policies, develop long-term strategic plans to toe that line. Our work more or less is increasing the synergy between the activities on the top and the activities on the bottom, and working towards closing the gap or making the gap a bit more, reducing the gap a bit more to ensure that, everything is working like a well-oiled machine. And I think platforms in general, not just our platform, are very essential to achieving this objective. I think another perspective to consider this is working together at different levels of governance. So if we look at what does the policy landscape look like on the continental level? What does it look like on the national level? What does it look like on the subnational level? It's important that at all these levels there is the highest level of synergy, and there is no contradiction, or something of that nature. So everything works together. There's a good flow. It flows into each other, and to promote the objectives that we are looking toward achieving. I think another thing that we're looking toward doing, as it's more or less a long-term work, is improving the communication lines, again with the objective of enhancing the strategy between the different levels of governance, between the different stakeholders, between the different players in the entire ecosystem. Because these exchanges, this clear communication and exchanges are important to the development of the value chain and the different platforms. So I think such exchanges like we're having today are very important. So we're learning from our colleagues in Asia, we'll learn from our colleagues in Europe, and also hearing from the perspective for Africa. So these I think the key word that we could take away from this is synergy. You know, what we would really like to do, you know, moving forward is increasing the synergy between all the key stakeholders on the different levels, the top, the bottom, the different continental levels, cross-boundary levels, and so on.
Wow. I've just taken notes with, national, subnational synergy and how to harmonize all of these activities. Such a encompassing task, and I think other platforms would like to learn on, how the human resources and the skills and, that are involved in allowing this to happen. Could I open the floor to other speakers, including Thomas, whether it's the ASEAN or and Maria. Perhaps we'll go to Maria to discuss these.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for giving me back the floor. I mean, policy requirements and policy structure is completely different from one place to another. In Europe, as you know, we have like a two-level policies. No, we are with our platform. What we're trying to do is to influence the policy on the European level. But then these policies need to be transposed to the different member states. So there is always the struggle and the debate, how far the European Union as a whole wants to go, how far individually the countries wants to go, and this is always the battle, no? To find a way to make people as happy or least unhappy as possible, but still maintain a high objective. Because we all realize that we need to move forward and to accelerate the transition, and policy making, good policy making, is the only way to set the correct ground. Because this is why the platforms are important, and this is why taking into account the different perspective is important, because this is the only way either to accelerate things, because you have taken into account all stakeholders' concerns, or you just make policies that they favor one sector, but they create problems to the rest of the community. And this is what we are trying to avoid, to have the whole society and all the communities moving forward step by step, but everyone joining together.
Thank you. Would Thomas? David, would you like to add anything?
I would just like to reinforce one point on the need for communication and exchange, and reinforce the other point that every country, everyone, policymakers work on the best interests of their sovereign state and their sovereign things, and based on what they think is best. And I think one of the key things is to raise the awareness on the importance of circular economy as solutions, because we all do on things. And the next point is that there is, I think, the world has to come together from beyond our own selfish, narrow community interest to the great things. You can't achieve the greater good unless we give a little bit of ourselves. So I believe that there is no win-win solutions unless we lose a little on ourselves by giving up some things. So we have to keep on reinforcing and the importance of communication exchange, that there are global challenges which are urgent, which can only be solved if we give up some of our pecuniary, selfish, narrow interests. And therefore, communications and dialogue is very critical.
Thomas, I'm going to try and push back here just a little bit.
Sure.
I guess some civil society would say, for business, it's in their DNA, but ultimately, they're in it for themselves. Now, in the context of what you said earlier, family-owned traditional values, Buddhist values, and government take the lead. How would you respond to that? But in the end, they're in it for themselves.
I think there is a lot of selfishness, in fact, among themselves as well. Okay, I remember some years ago, I'm just even of civil society, we worked out with ASEAN governments, businesses, the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission, a regional strategy to achieve human rights through corporate social responsibility. I was heavily criticized by somebody because I did the baseline study for social responsibility and human rights in ASEAN. And I actually challenged somebody who was so critical because it was an imperfect document. My point was, you can settle on an imperfect document for action, or you can have a perfect document, all the nice words for the filing and for celebration, but nothing happens. So I actually cornered this person and said, look, you were trying to push these governments to have this regional plan for 20 years, but we have got something for 2 years. And her point was, oh, once you succeed, then I don't have a cost. So I can't get funding, I can't do, because we are fighting for human rights. And if we move the agenda, I can't get something. So I'm trying to say there are elements of selfishness, not just in businesses, but also in civil society and everywhere. So how do we evolve from our position of what is today to what we need tomorrow? If all good charities, because they help poor people, will eventually have to work themselves out of being a charity, because people are no longer poor. We also cannot work on the basis that I need to survive, I need to have my job because people must be poor. So I'm just giving an illustration. So I think it is difficult to debate this way or that way, but we just have to move very strongly beyond a business case to also a moral case that I have to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And I accept that definitions of what is right may also vary based on our own values, upbringings, and all. But fundamentally, there is still a lot of things which is very common in the sense that we all have to push for what is good for society and for the continuation of our humankind.
Thank you. Oh, wise words again. Before I move on to the next session, any other thoughts and views from our panelists on what we have discussed so far? Okay, if not, I would like to move on to the next session, and basically it leads on quite naturally from what we're discussing, what we have been discussing in the last few minutes, and that is from a civil society role or perspective. Basically, how can platforms like us exchange among themselves and participate in the international debate about circular economy, and in relation also to the involvement, the place, and the role of civil society in this effort. So could I ask perhaps from your experience, Maria, to take the lead on this?
Yes, thank you very much. I mean, the obvious answer is that civil society organizations, they're crucial for the platforms and for the evolution of the whole project, of turning circular. I mean, without the stakeholders, platforms would not make sense directly. So, I mean, they are the actual actors that they have a realistic picture of what's happening on the ground. They can help identify the challenges, the opportunities. So without them, the transition is not possible. And now I think I'm gonna take different examples from the activities of our own platform, just to illustrate the importance of the stakeholders and civil society and their impact. So if we think on SSPs, I mean, the stakeholders, since the beginning, they are essential because they feed the content on the platform. The website that we have, it's a very powerful tool. There's a wealth of information there, there are loads of examples and good practices and strategies that they can inspire people here in Europe, but everywhere else in the world as well. The idea is to bring new ideas that they are replicable with specifications, of course, to the local needs and specificities, but ideas that could be easily be implemented in other places in the world. So currently there are in the webpage more than 770 good practices. We also have links from different circular economy networks. There are more than 185 networks, mostly European, but there are about 15, I think, that they are outside of Europe as well. So civil society is there to bring knowledge and to share knowledge. Then we have the coordination group that I was mentioning before, the 24 people from that are selected from the different civil society organizations. All of them, they come from businesses, they come from trade unions, think tanks, academia. So the discussions that we are having, they are mostly interesting because they tackle the transition to circular economy from different and complementing angles. This is why I was saying it was so important to bring completely different stakeholders together. Now the coordination group, also they organize thematic debates, which we call them EU Circular Talks, when people come together to share their experience on specific topics. And apart from the things that we all learn during these events, the practical things, they also sparkle the debate on social media. So civil society is very active and very present on our social media. We have more than 7,700 followers on Twitter, even more on LinkedIn. So the debates and the outreach on social media is also important to promote the circular economy concept and encourage more people to join the movement. So promotion is always key, and expanding and bringing more audience it can also help to increase the impact. Now, when you bring civil society together, there are networking opportunities. So this is why once a year from the platform, we organize a conference, a 2-day conference, which is our flagship event, where all the stakeholders come together for 2 days and we discuss about the transition. Before the pandemics, we used to meet in Brussels in person. During the pandemics, we had to go to an online format, and then we decided that, we've all learned the positive impact of hybrid meetings, no? Of course, it's always much better to meet in person, especially to enhance networking. We all know, of course, how powerful networking is when over a coffee and where we meet in the corridors, or when we take advantage of the breaks to meet more new people or to deepen the conversations that we've been listening to. But still, the online participation and the online networking in this globalized world, and now that we have the opportunities to do that, it's also powerful. So during the first day of the events, people, the stakeholders and civil society from different sectors have the opportunity to focus on discussions, mostly based on the implementation and the progress of the implementation of the EU legislation. The first day is always more related to policies. And on the second day, it's where we have the opportunity to speak to high-level representatives of other EU institutions to promote and disseminate good practices, knowledge through knowledge sharing and dialogue. So civil society and networking go hand in hand.
Thank you, Maria.
And then, I'm sorry, was I too long?
No. I wanted to, I just wanted to, we were still on time, I believe. But
Okay.
listening to you, I believe that one of the process, the coordination group that you mentioned, I think to make this successful, to involve all of the stakeholders, and the business, the trade unions, the think tanks, it would only be possible without a really, really good coordination group. That's my, if you could say a little bit about that. And secondly, you know, the thematic groups, do they ever intermingle, or are they separate amongst themselves between business or trade unions or think tanks? Or does that happen when, during your annual general meeting, when people within the various thematic groups actually intermingle? Or does it also happen on
The thematic domains, they always intermingle. I mean, within the coordination group, they sort of divide themselves, let's say, or organize themselves in subgroups where they decide to tackle different thematic, different subjects. But every time we organize these kind of discussions, it's always intermingled with all the stakeholders that they are relevant and that they have a say on the specific subject. So no, we never have only a business-oriented approach or a trade unions-oriented approach. For us, it's important to bring everyone together at the same time. This is also because on the ESC, we have a very strong focus on sustainable development, and the sustainable development goals are there as they are set on the UN's. No, so our focus is always, when we're talking about sustainability, to not only to take into account the environmental part of sustainability, but precisely to bring together the economy and the society at the same time. And now, when it comes to your first question on the coordination group, there's actually a selection process on who's joining the coordination group. Every 2.5 years, we decide how the group is composed, precisely with the idea to have a big variety of different stakeholders. And this is always the focus, to have a regional variety, because in Europe it's also important not to have players from only one country, but also the specific subject that everybody is working on. We always try to have a gender balance as well. Women are important to be there. So yeah, we embrace the variety in general. The more different we are, we consider that the more we can join and fill in the gaps of each other.
Thank you very much, because what I've learned from this is that your stakeholder platform has put human development and sustainable development goal as the main focus. I mean, I was recently at a carbon market, a large conference, and I don't think the businesses involved there understood the importance of sustainable development or human development or civil society, because they place civil society at the very end, and this is my personal bias, at the very end of their process in order to sell their idea for people to join their, you know, their decarbonization carbon market platform. Thank you very much. Could I ask the other panels if anybody would want to add something before we go into some questions from the audience? Would anybody like to add any points?
Yes, from my side, I again would just like to emphasize the role of civil society organizations in the development of circular economy, especially within the African context. So these organizations are essential for advocacy, especially, which is at the beginning stages and even growing in circular economy extremely important to spread the word, to share the information, and oftentimes they act as hubs that further develop the circular economy. So small collections of different organizations in different locations facilitates that transboundary knowledge sharing and information sharing even within those small clusters. So the African Circular Economy Network in itself has grown from a hub in South Africa to having over representation in over 40 African countries, and this, you know, has also supported the growth of circular economy within these countries. As we would see, some countries are a bit more advanced than the others, and these civil societies help in pushing forward the cause that we're all working towards. So you'd see some civil societies are focused on encouraging youth involvement, others are focused on encouraging women involvement, others are focused on specific themes or topics like circular economy in energy, in metals, in agriculture, in different industries. So they provide a strength that some other areas of society like the government may not be able to provide. They're a unique ingredient in the recipe in terms of moving forward.
Thank you. Could I pose the question that, as in my understanding, this is probably the first meeting that we've had between the various circular economy stakeholders. I'm sorry, Thomas, would you like to say something?
Nothing much. I'd just like to add that the importance of civil society alternate voices are great. I completely know that because my background is actually in the trade unions. There is a lot of time when we make representations to employers, the decent ones come and tell me, oh, I've never thought about these problems. I've never thought about these angles. Thanks for bringing this up. But there's also a whole lot of drama when people try to put up the thing. So I think the question is, how do we build capacity in civil society? Because in ASEAN, we always hear the caution that one side is not listening to the other side. And to a large extent, it is true because there are biases and also the way we speak. Because we all come from different backgrounds. You don't expect somebody who has worked in the community to talk in the same language as a bureaucrat. So I think the fundamental question of communications and constant dialogue has to go. And second thing is that we must also reinforce that we need responsible civil society, just like we need responsible businesses. Responsible civil society who has the resources to really represent the constituency that they are working on. And only then we have strong civil society, strong businesses, strong governments, that we can get the best possible outcomes, because then only when you're strong, you have the political will to compromise and reach solutions. Otherwise, there will not be a lot of posturing and yelling without solutions at hand. So I can just reinforce the importance of alternative voices, the alternative views to come out with better solutions. Nobody has the monopoly of knowledge and wisdom. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. I think the last two speakers have identified, I think, the importance and what I see the challenge, to involve all stakeholders and in the broader aspects of governance, and how to do that. And I think this is essential. And the challenge is how to get different people that speak different, almost different languages to come to a common goal or a common understanding or a common pathway that we should be working together. And I would hope that platforms like ourselves, would be a platform that was to happen in spite of all these challenges. So lastly, I want to pose, perhaps this is a little bit early to say, but if certainly if you have any views on how we can work together on a specific issue, if the platforms can find a specific issue, whether it's internally and how the younger platforms can move forward, or whether it's a specific issue on something which we can join together in the global debate, or something which is urgent. I think I hope that we can start thinking about that, and I'm pretty sure that since we're here today, that we can continue to keep our lines of communication open, in the hope that regional platforms like ourselves can work together on a certain issue onwards into the future. with the organizers, I think we would like to take this opportunity to have questions from the audience. Please feel free. I think we're still we still have plenty of time, I believe, about 20 minutes for any questions that that the audience might have, or maybe some questions that I missed out in the chat, that the organizers could read out for any of the presenters. I'm looking through the chat, so please feel free to oh, here we go. Yes, Suman.
Yes, thank you for allowing to speak. Yes, we recently organized a regional policy dialogue for South Asia and Southeast Asia, further with people coming together in Nepal from Vietnam, India, Bangladesh, and also Nepal itself. But my question here is, so I found one thing challenging. We try to find a common understanding of the circular economy policy. So our objective is to make a policy guide for the region. And so in that case, we found lots of different policies. For example, India have their own, and Bangladesh and Nepal. So it would be good to hear from you that what does it mean, or how do we work out to find a common understanding while saying in a regional level in a circular economy related policy? Thank you.
Anybody would like to take that? There are so many different policies. I think Suman was talking about South Asia. Each particular country has their own policies, but how can we have a common, or build towards a common regional understanding, or direction? Who would like to take this interesting question?
Anthony, may I come in? Zinaida is
Yes,
here.
please.
So just a quick and very suboptimal answer. Apologies for that. It would require very long and in-depth debate, but we do agree that there are quite a lot of understanding about circular economy. This is what I open our introduction to the session about. So I would say that it might not be a problem that different policies are there. So to facilitate circular economy, we need a variety of policies. There is no circular economy policy, one which would sort out all problems. It really depends on the diagnostics of the situation or in the region and aspirations which are attached to circular economy. That's probably not, you cannot fix with one instrument, with one hammer, you cannot build a house. You need a variety of instruments. That's not a problem. What certainly a challenge, and we agree about this, is variety of definitions about circular economy. The recent academic article which made a review of different definitions came up with 121 definitions what circular economy means, which can be of course great, but creates a very serious problem. It sometimes allows the actions which are actually not really sustainable and not even fit into the definition of circular economy, which drives towards sustainability, to be portrayed as such. What we say is that circular economy is going, and I'm repeating myself, beyond resource circularity. It has in principle aim at net zero leakage, net zero waste within the system. It might be idealistic at the moment, but it's certainly an aspiration. So circular economy needs to, or discussion needs to go into understanding of the principles. How much I gave you? I think I gave you 18,200. Colleagues, can we please shut the microphones, whoever is not with us? Hello? So just to repeat a little bit, Paul puts one off. So we look at the circular economy principles which allow prevention of material energy leakages from our consumption and production system, making circular economy truly a sustainability path, right? Now, that is why, for example, Thomas, when you speak about consultation among the business, what you really try to find with your business partners is what kind of principles need to be there to not to serve as a fig leaf or as a greenwash, another greenwash towards circular economy. So principles need to be agreed, and this is exactly the work which started in many of the platforms now to arrive at the true circular economy principles, which eventually constitute definition, and definitions could be slightly different. I hope it gives a bit of an insight into our thinking about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zenaida. Could I ask Siyavuya? You raised your hand. Can I move on to Assad, please, since you raised your hand? Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it was certainly a good talk. I'll be presenting one scenario and looking forward to your input on that in context of circular economy and its allied challenges. I'm based in Pakistan and practicing sustainability and other common themes of circular economy as well. So there is like one famous hotel chain over here in Pakistan, and they initially started working on sort of circular economy concepts and similarly started focusing on eradicating plastic waste and bringing in glass bottles and things like that. So I think many of the countries in the region have certain sort of similar sort of problems, and their solutions might be of the same nature. So is there any data repository, if in this case, which I have just presented, that they ask for the open bidding to provide them the glass bottles in the hotel, largest hotel chain, and they are not able to find any supplier which can meet their daily demands. And now it's setting again, if they have raised their ambitions over here, similar in context of circular economy or other best practices. So is there any data repository you are working on regional level for to present as case studies in different difficulties which organizations face, and how those organizations are eradicating or getting rid of those issues and problems?
Thank you, Hassan. Any response? I'd like to open this up to everybody, actually, to respond to any of the comments. Siwa, you still have your hand up. Can you put your hand down? Thank you.
If I may jump in, I mean, in our case on the European platform, we do not produce any documents ourselves. As I mentioned, it was the civil society that is bringing all the data. So I'm not sure you will find the information there, but you might find people who are working on similar subjects as you are, or maybe because the information is organized by in different ways, specifically thematic ones. So maybe by looking into the subjects that you are treating, maybe you will find other organizations that they have similar problems and solutions, or they are working on the sector. So just to bridge or to broaden your network. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Just to complement Maria's suggestion, which is very valuable, I think that there are two ways of thinking about that. One is, of course, to look for the existing products which that hotel is looking for. But if there is no product, then there is no product. So our suggestion in this particular case, and some of the technical advisories or policy advisories which we are working on, is to develop the ecosystem where the government in particular would create an innovation or acceleration processes for some businesses to develop a particular products which are on demand on the market. So this kind of special glass or special materials will not come overnight. If there is no demand on the market, no one is going to bring them forward. So a combination of the vision, what would it mean, let's say the circular hotel, a circular building, including the different building materials, anticipation of this vision, and issuing the policies which would accelerate production and on investment into this kind of products and materials so that eventually they would be entering the market is really the only way, longer term way forward. But we do understand and appreciate the challenge that sometimes when suddenly business want to turn into particular product, it would not work because they wouldn't find it. And the only way to do that from the side of a policy and the government, it really have long-term perspective and accelerate or facilitate, as we say, the market transformation of this kind of products through long-term and development and policy and innovation systems. Indeed, innovation systems for sustainable product and services is something which we consider quite an urgently demanded in many countries and the regions. And for that, collaboration between the businesses and the government would need to be actually accelerated. So I hope it's, again, helps to share the direction of policy work we are doing with governments in the region, but it's certainly not helping this specific case of hotel looking for this specific product.
Interesting. Arsenio, please.
Yes, I have only one question. I use the Google Traductor because I don't speak English very well. Is Europe working to introduce a regulation on product quality standards? Because the competition that gives the possibility to produce many products of different qualities is not sustainable. In the same way, it is not sustainable to produce products if there is no real demand for the product, and more generally, if the demand is made by the market.
Can I pick this up? I'm not currently aware that there is any proposal on standardizing products. Nevertheless, there are several different EU legislations that they put minimum standards in terms of safety, for health and for the environment, for example. So I think not a specific one, but different kind of legislations, for example, on sustainable chemicals, or the legislation that has to do with the Green Deal and the environmental impact of the products, might have an impact on the minimum standards of certain products.
Okay, thank you.
Jeroboam?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm in the mining sector. My family is in the mining industry. We have a lot of problems in the mining industry that includes environmental impacts and the impacts of mining that includes the processing in the community. So here in the Philippines, in the small-scale mining industry, we are lacking behind the technology development. That's around 4 decades late. So worldwide, every other mining communities are trying to upgrade their technology. So here in the Philippines, I started this circular economy, and then it transformed into symbiosis of industries. These two are interrelated. So what we did, we used this mining waste. We researched a lot. So from the mining waste, we created the cements. We can create them into mining bricks, because you can create polymer cements from the mining waste, because all of the materials needed for the cement is already there in the mining waste. So aside from that, for chemical sustainability, we took this mining waste, this solution, we converted them into, for example, calcium sulfate. We got aluminum sulfate. All of these materials, we created our own cement. We call it tricrete cement. It is from the formula is related from the Roman concrete. So we created that. We have a lot of results. It's a very good result. So we tried to deal with the government to support us. So the government is trying to see this potential, because before we went to the government to propose this concept for the mining waste for sustainability, we tried to attend other forums like Holcim Cement. So because we have this calcium sulfate that is plaster cement, so we have this lead. So we have already supply. We can supply the cement industry coming from the mining industry. So there's a lot of development. There's a lot of products that can be developed from the mining waste and also from the agricultural mining waste. So from sustainability, I heard the plastic waste. We also try to do some transaction or business dealings with the recycling plants for plastic timbers. So plastic timbers, you can use that. You can use that for the mining timbers also. We needed that for sustainability, so that there will be a limit to deforestation, because mining is it uses a lot of timbers from the forest. So we try to minimize that by using waste from other industries. So we try to merge this problem together to create another system for every industry to benefit, including the farmers, the miners. That includes the sustainability for water sustainability, because it's a lot of there's a lot of environmental impacts. So we try to see the most worst case scenarios. So we try to pick that up and we try to formulate a solution from that problem. So we created this. I'd like to share that idea, because we're doing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Jerome. Could I move on to Rafael?
Yes, hello everyone. Hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Hello everyone. Thanks for that great webinar. I really appreciate the insights. Yeah, so from my perspective, I just wanted to give a little bit of insight. So my background is in waste management, and from my perspective, I would find it really important to not only change the product design, so that we're actually designing products in a way that they are becoming repairable again, that they're designed for longevity and durability. But it's also, from my perspective, very important to look at the end, actually, right? Because the question for me is, why is it the case that there are not really, for example, in terms of European Union, why is there not really a harmonized reverse logistics systems across the continent, right? So if we take, for example, 27 the member states, why can't we all agree that, for example, we have to harmonize these reverse logistics systems, right? Because if those reverse logistics systems are not in place, it doesn't really matter if we're building circular products and services and all these things. Those things don't come back, right? The systemic leakage still occurs, right? And so I think this is, from my perspective, very important. An example, I mean, if we look at the European continent, there is like 30 to 40% of biological waste in the composition of waste streams in general, right? So even with the reverse logistics systems for biological waste streams, right, alone, we could basically reduce the amount of solid waste generation by 30 to 40%. If we use that biological material, we can basically reintegrate that into biogas production as a middle step to produce electricity. We can use it afterwards. We can use it for composting. We can bring that back to soils, which would increase the nutrients in the soils. This would also create jobs for people in the transportation sector, which are not really highly qualified jobs, but those are jobs that can be done by people who might not have who might not be highly qualified, right? So this will solve multiple problems, but from my perspective, there's a lot of, and don't get me wrong, I'm not here to criticize, but there's a lot of talk and a lot of things that we agree on, that we don't agree on, and I think if we come to conclusions that different solutions actually provide us with multiple benefits in terms of economic prosperity, environmental protection, and also social cohesion. So, for example, reverse logistics for biological waste streams would solve across these different dimensions, right? So, for example, you can save costs, you can protect the environment. A lot of waste would be decreased, which also would decrease emission. It would also decrease the synthetic fertilizer use, and it also would be beneficial for people, right? Because it creates jobs. So, if we can agree on different solutions that actually are holistic solutions that solve multiple problems, I think that would be important. So my question to the round would be, why is it maybe that we simply cannot agree on harmonized waste management systems in the European Union, for example, or harmonized reverse logistics systems, right? So this is one start, right? Because that would be a massive start, because that would reduce the amount of waste by 40%. So yeah, thank you very much. Really appreciated the webinar, and yeah, I yield.
Thank you for raising that point on the harmonized reverse logistics systems. I want to, if there are any questions in response to Rafael, but please raise your hand. But let me turn now to Dr. Afraz.
Hello, everyone. I believe that everybody can listen me. Okay, can you listen me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this very healthy webinar. I'm basically working as a coordinator for some European, Pakistani, like Asian and African research projects, and based on the zero wastage and of course the circular economy. I would like to know that to whom we have to contact to be a part of this Switch Asia project from my university's side, because I'm also a university professor. I'm also working in a lot of projects in Faisalabad Chamber of Commerce. So I would like to bring my university to be a part of this particular Switch Asia project. So I think maybe Maria or someone else can give me the answer that to whom we have to contact for proposal making or something like that. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's directed to the organizers. Would anybody like to answer Dr. Afraz's question on how to be part of this Switch Asia effort? Correct, Dr. Afraz?
Yeah, perfect.
I think you are beginning initial part of it right now.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. But I just wanted to go one step ahead. Is there anyone who is officially working from Pakistan?
Yes. Is there?
Or
I believe there are, but I will leave that to the Switch to reply. But I believe there are. Because I've met some.
Fine, then I have to stop. Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed, we are engaged in Pakistan, and there is active Switch Asia projects ongoing in Pakistan. I confirm.
Okay, that's great. It's a good news for me. Then I will search out your website in detail, and then I think.
Yes, all the information is on the website.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Afraz. I see there are no hands up, and I think we're closing in on right on time. Am I correct, Elodie? So may I take this opportunity then to?
Yes, indeed, Anthony. We're coming close to the end of our session, and the closing remarks are prepared by my colleague Lorraine Gatlabayan.
So may I ask Lorraine, please, to say a few words for your closing remarks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. I will try to highlight key points that have been discussed to close this important event. We heard from our distinguished guests representing the circular economy stakeholder platforms or networks on how circular economy transition has become increasingly important in the various regions, and that stakeholders from governments, practitioners, communities, and among others, play a key role to its success. In Asia and Europe, it is important to highlight the importance of the support provided by regional organizations, such as the ASEAN community and the EU, which pushes for active engagement from governments to be involved in these platforms as partners that could help achieve common objectives towards circular economy. However, as shown, as mentioned by Africa, stakeholder platform and circular economy, it is equally important that these platforms also provide opportunities for collaboration on the ground, involving experts, practitioners, and communities to develop strategies and activities towards circular economy, as we heard from examples also from the participants. It is clearly important to engage stakeholders from the ground up, as Africa Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform highlighted, particularly on providing policy dialogue and engagement and working together on different levels of governance to form synergies and to promote common objectives. To mainstream the circular economy approaches, these has to be translated to national policies as highlighted by the EU Circular Economy Platform. Individual actions and policies need to be seen through the lens of circular economy as a comprehensive system of interconnected practices involving multiple stakeholders in various sectors and levels of governance. There is also a need to push for the business case and even the moral case towards circular economy, as highlighted by Thomas from the ASEAN CSR network, as business engagement and action are needed to transition to circular economy. There's a need to have a common understanding on circular economy, encouraging businesses towards innovation and resource efficiency, going beyond greenwashing. Thomas highlighted that it is important to raise awareness on circular economy as solutions, and also the importance of communication to engage from the local to the global level and vice versa. Communication is important among stakeholders, empowering them to push for actions on the ground. And as what Sinaida put it in the chat, through communication comes trust and then actions with ambition. So the contribution of those regional circular economy stakeholder platforms are important, and it supports circular economy transition to adopt to cleaner technologies and more sustainable and circular practices, as well as helping consumers to act more responsibly in their daily choices and lifestyle. So these platforms can improve national strategies and action plans towards circular economy, actions and practices, while also catalyzing actions led by stakeholders from businesses to civil society. It is important to engage a variety of diverse stakeholders in civil society to increase their knowledge, understanding of, and build their capacity to take action towards solutions to circular economy. And I just want to highlight again what Thomas said, which I quote: "The world, including businesses, has to come together to achieve the greater good. There is no win-win. Some will need to make concessions, but it is important to protect the most vulnerable through a just transition. Platforms help include their voices in this debate." There is so much to discuss, and we hope to continue the conversation among the various platforms and our participants, and also through possible collaboration with Switch Asia program, so we could help learn and help each other have greater impact globally as we transition towards circular economy. Thank you. Back to you, Elodie.
Thank you so much, Lorraine, for those closing remarks. And thank you to all the speakers and to Dr. Anthony today for these great interventions and for the fantastic moderation. Thank you very much. We look forward to more seminars together, webinars. Thank you all for participating and for your active chat. It was really, really extremely nice to hear all of your views. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bill. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks all. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.